George and Adam had been partners for years, navigating the chaos of one of the busiest EMS systems in the state. Tonight, though, felt different. Dispatch was in status 0, no ambulances available, and 911 calls were stacking up faster than units could clear. Every siren, every tone on the radio, reminded them of the mounting pressure. Their current patient, Mr. Griffith, was a kindly grandfather who had overestimated his stamina while playing rugby with his grandkids. Now he was pale and diaphoretic, gripping his chest as he struggled for breath in the back of their ambulance. "Hang tight, Mr. Griffith," George said, his voice steady despite the urgency. "We're getting you to the hospital." Adam, at the wheel, maneuvered through traffic toward Mother of Eternal Sorrows, the closest hospital. The ED was already infamous for its overcrowding, but tonight it looked more like a war zone than a place of healing. Ambulances lined the entryway, their crews pacing or leaning against their rigs in quiet frustration. Inside, the scene was worse. The waiting room overflowed with patients. Stretchers and wheelchairs were crammed into every available space. The triage nurses looked harried, their eyes darting from one patient to another. "Room for one more?" George asked, steering Mr. Griffith's stretcher toward the nurse's station. The nurse didn't even look up. "Put him in the hallway," she said, scribbling something on a clipboard. "He's got chest pain and a cardiac history," George countered. Her head snapped up, and her tone turned sharp. "Fine. Room 4. Put him there, and we'll get to him when we can." Reluctantly, George and Adam wheeled Mr. Griffith into room 4, transferring him to the hospital bed. George adjusted the oxygen flow and made sure the monitor leads were secure. "Someone will be with you soon," George reassured him. They stepped out of the room, looking for a nurse to give a report. The nurses were all running between rooms or locked into computer screens. George tried flagging one down, but she brushed past him. "Dispatch," Adam called out on the radio. "Unit 14 clear at the hospital." The reply was immediate. "4 calls holding. Stand by for priority update." Then came the call that made their stomachs sink. "CPR in progress. 2 blocks from your location. Confirm availability." George glanced at Adam. "We can't just sit here waiting." Adam nodded grimly. They stepped back into room 4. "Mr. Griffith," George said, "I'm so sorry, but there's a critical emergency nearby. We have to go, but you're in good hands here." With one last check of the monitor and Mr. Griffith's oxygen, they left the room, trusting, or hoping, that a nurse would arrive soon. They ran to their ambulance and sped off to the CPR call. The overlooked room. Hours later, another ambulance crew arrived at Mother of Eternal Sorrows. They were also met with the same chaos. Directed to room 4, they expected to find a patient waiting for care. Instead, they found Mr. Griffith unresponsive, his skin pale and cool. The monitor was silent. "Code blue," one of them yelled, but it was too late. The time of death would later be estimated as just minutes after George and Adam had left. The hospital staff scrambled to figure out what had happened. The nurses at the station reviewed logs and realized with horror that Mr. Griffith had never been registered into the system. No one had taken a report from George and Adam. No one had even known he was in room 4. The tragic lesson. When the details of the night came to light, the situation was described as a clear case of patient abandonment. George and Adam, despite their good intentions and the overwhelming stress of the shift, had left a patient without ensuring a proper handoff to someone of equal or higher medical authority. Their decision to leave stemmed from urgency, responding to another critical call while trusting the hospital to take over care. But the law and medical ethics are uncompromising. Continuity of care is paramount. This tragedy underscored a painful truth about the EMS and healthcare systems. Even the best-trained professionals can falter under extreme conditions. It wasn't malice or neglect on their part, but the decision cost Mr. Griffith his life. In the aftermath, George and Adam faced disciplinary action, but they also became vocal advocates for systemic changes. They pushed for better hospital communication protocols, more robust registration systems, and clearer guidelines for EMS crews during high-stress scenarios. The case of Mr. Griffith remains a haunting reminder that even amidst chaos, the chain of care must never be broken. In EMS, seconds matter, and so does the responsibility to ensure no patient is left behind.